Hello, everyone. Welcome to the last and the final episode of Pandemic COVID-19 Unmasked, where we shall bring to you several people related stories evolving around the pandemic. Myself, Riya Ashok.
I am Mansi.
And I'm Ria Varghese, a mentor who paved the path for more than 500 students set out to conquer the world with a pen as their sword, a poet whose verses infused with the bittersweet realities of life puts its readers into a state of introspection, a storyteller who weaves his words with utmost intricacy, embellishing the little elements that leave the listener spellbound. Someone who not only makes his presence felt at various fests and slams, but ends up winning the heart and the minds of its audience for his way with words. Therefore, I take this opportunity to welcome our guest for the day, Anshuman Sarma. Thank you so much for taking some time off your busy schedule for a virtual interactive session.
Glad to be here. Glad to be here.
Okay. So before we begin, let me just ask you how the lockdown has been treating you. We just hope you, your family, and everyone around you have been safe and sound during this situation. How has it been for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've been hearing this question a lot, so I find this question very funny because I don't think lockdown has been treating anybody well.
Yes.
But
That's
I would like to reframe the question as in how have you been, navigating your way in the lockdown? And I would say
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
been doing pretty well. I've been doing pretty well. Uh, so the thing is, before the lockdown, I was back home in Guwahati. I used to work in, live and work in Bangalore before this, and I figured that I need some change because I was not doing a lot of work on my health, and that was something that was I was
Yeah.
what how do I put it? I was sacrificing my health for my career, and as I made that realization, I'm like, okay, that's my health is more important than the career. So put a comma there, and let's start off with this, and that helped me. That all of that self work really helped me navigate my way properly, and understand my emotions
Yeah.
better, and when you understand yourself better, it's easier to understand others better. I feel that. So yeah, that's what's lockdown for me. Basically, a lot of
Yeah.
reading, lot of self work, and a lot of staying inside home. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So we begin with the interview. So my first question has to do something with your Instagram bio, which tells you are an educator, a writer, a spoken word poet, a storyteller, a puzzle solver, and a feminist. So if I was to ask you which was the role you connect yourself with the most, what does Anshuman relate to the most among all of these attributes?
So the one thing I relate to the most is not written there in the bio, which is a human being. And I think that is the one
Okay.
thing. I mean, there's literally human in my name, ANGSHUMAN. So that's just a fun thing. But I try to become a better human being every single day. I try to strive to you know put put random acts of kindness everywhere, and that's just make the world a better place for me and for others. So I think that's the one I connect the most, but that's not written in the bio. So that's only for people who ask me this question.
all right. So, as I've seen in a lot of your poetry, like you have this love for mathematics, and you always give references of maths in your poems. So that shows that you are, interested in maths and science. So normally, when people complete class 12, they go for a profession like a doctor or an engineer. So, what was your inspiration to take the road not taken to be like a storyteller and a spoken word poet? So, please tell us about it.
Yeah, so I never imagined that I would become a storyteller or a spoken word poet. I didn't even know that something like you can be something like that, because
Yes.
people around me said that nothing like that existed, and I didn't have any role models. So when I went to Bangalore, which was my ticket to go outside of this place where I lived. Guwahati is a very small town actually, in case you didn't know that. So I just went to study psychology, journalism, and English, because those are the three subjects. I told my parents that these are the only three subjects I would study. Otherwise, I would not study anything else. And they were like, "Oh, okay, okay. At least he's gonna study something. Okay, fine." Because I said after 12, I don't even want to study because I don't like the education system. And then they were like, "Okay, at least he's studying." So I went to study, and there I found that people are performing poetry. I used to write poems, but I never thought you could perform poems. And I'm like, oh, you can perform poetry. Then uh, uh, I saw a slam in Under 25 Lit Fest Bangalore. So there's this thing called Under 25 Lit Fest that happens in Bangalore, and I think it also happens in Mumbai or Pune. I don't know. Some event happened, but I'm not sure. Anyway, the point is, when that happened, I was like, okay, I'm gonna see what this is, because it has the word poetry in it. And I saw, and I was like, oh my god, this is something I want to do. I just knew it. Just the instinct, my instincts like rose from deep within me to my surface, and I'm like, yeah, this is something I want to do. And I asked, how do I do this? And they said, hey, why don't you apply for NYPS? I'm like, what is NYPS? They said National Youth Poetry Slam. And I'm like, okay. And then I auditioned for NYPS. My team went to the finals of NYPS, and obviously we didn't win. Like, I didn't even know, others also didn't know. There were experienced people who won, but it was such a mind-opening experience. Then I started doing open mic, write more poetry, going poetry workshops, reading more poetry. Definitely reading more poetry. That was something that changed. And started telling stories as well. I thought, yeah, so if you can perform poetry, why not stories? Yeah. And then recently, in the pandemic, this national story slam happened, and I went to the finals of that as well. Same result, didn't win, but but that was fun. That was fun, and it was done by Commune, if you know Commune. Yeah, yeah. So that was really cool. So yeah, that's been the journey, and I've been an educator with MyCaptain. They saw that, like, oh, Angshuman, you are awesome. Why don't you join? I'm like, yeah, cool. You are awesome. I'll join you. That's all.
So Angshuman was my mentor also. I'm not sure if he remembers, but
I know. I
he took
remember. I remember.
yeah yeah. So he took a workshop for me for spoken word poetry. So it was amazing.
Okay. So lately, we had these classes going, online sessions and all going on. The virtual space have been treating us pretty good. And then our professor came up with this idea where we had to write a piece every day, something creative, anything that we would like to write just to improve our, maybe the writing skills. Yeah. So we now know that it's kind of difficult to come up with something creative every single day. And there is Angshuman Sarma, who has been doing the 1,000-day poetry challenge. So my question to you is, Anshuman, what is your muse? What inspires you to write every day? Where does this creativity come from?
uh, all creativity comes from within. There is no muse as such. So I would like to break three myths here. Myth number one: every artist needs to have a muse. No, there's nothing like that. That's a myth. You sometimes you just write. That's you just write. Number two, you cannot write every day. I'm already proving it, and after 1,000 days, I'm gonna show it to the world that you can write every day. This is how you can do it. uh, and myth number three is that, uh, I don't know how to put it exactly, but it is somewhere along the lines of you always need some kind of an inspiration to write. Because on some days, on your bad days, you will not have any inspiration. On your bad days, like think of any bad day that you have had, and then you'll be like, okay, I didn't get any inspiration. There's inspiration is positive. You are in your negative state right then, right? How do you write? So I figured out that at the end of the day, if you make it a habit to write every single day, then it makes more sense to go with it. Like the the trick is to sit down. The trick is to sit down to write. It's not to actually write something great, because most of what I write is anyway like shit. I'm not even kidding. It's shitty. And but the thing is, shit makes for great fertilizer. Yeah, so I can later on use all of that. I can use this is not said by me, by the way. This is I heard it somewhere, so I use it every day now. The thing is, I can use it sometime later. But what I'm doing is, that is so in the future, right? I can use it sometime later. But in the act of me sitting here to write, what I'm doing is I'm training my muscle. I'm training my muscle to sit down and patiently and write. Doesn't matter if it's just 2 lines, I'll write. And that is the exact same principles all the sportsmen use, sportswomen also. Yeah, that's the patriarchy talking from here. Anyway, so I believe that this kind of discipline will help creative people also, and that is something I don't see often, and I want to bring that out in the most creative way possible. So
That was amazing. So I just so the next question that I want to ask is that as a person who has so many people following you, who has so many people appreciating your work, so you have sort of a responsibility towards them also in a way, to because like in this during this tough times, during these tough times, during the pandemic, during the lockdown, people are relying over the people who are over the social media more. So you are one of them. So you must please tell us the ways that you used your social media handles in a way to sort of disseminate information relating to lockdown and creating awareness about the COVID-19 pandemic.
hmm. First of all, I would like to answer it from a personal angle, and then I'll come to the real answer of the question, which is how I am using social media. So before the lockdown, I had a very healthy use of social media. Because I worked on myself, and I was like, digital well-being is important. So I was using it it was a very healthy relationship. But after the pandemic, without my knowledge, I relapsed again. As in, social media was one of my coping mechanisms before. So I didn't know how when I relapsed, but what happened was, because of the pandemic, when I couldn't go out of the house, social media became the way I could connect to people. So I would be overly dependent on social media, and it would be a toxic relationship kind of a thing. Yeah. And then I realized that 1 month ago, I think. Yeah, about a month ago. And that's when I took the decision that I'm going to stop the use of social media like this. And for that, I need to distance myself from social media a little bit. So I'm going to take a month off of Facebook and Insta, because those are the two I have been using more, because that's where my friends are. And to reach a better baseline, as in, like, lower the baseline. My baseline was like, 4 hours at least. Yeah, and that's unhealthy, right? That's unhealthy. I mean, I would rationalize that, oh, I'm also working and all of that, social media, that's my work. But actually, no. So reflection got me to there, and I'm like, I'm gonna have stipulated timings for social media after some time, after the break. But I need the break so that my baseline is lowered, so that I know that I can, uh, control myself and not use social media like you know like it's like my drug, that metaphor. Yeah. So that's number one. Number two is, I could not uh, cut off myself exactly, because I have to run that Instagram page, right? So one poem a day. So I'm still doing that, but there are no friends. Like, I don't keep up with friends as such through that account. So I just read poetry. So that's number two. And now coming to the real answer of the question, which is number three, that how have I been doing, helping out or anything, that, connecting people, in this times of pandemic is I started this thing called open mic, because I was missing open mics a lot. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to start my own open mic. Doesn't matter who comes, whoever comes, let's just keep it like a small community start. And I started, and people started coming in, and we had a lot of fun. And today is the open mic day, by the way. You can see it written here, right here, poetry open mic. Yeah. I'm gonna keep it here only for the time being. uh, um, and what else? Yeah, that's about it. I mean, every week meeting a set of group of people, coming together for something they enjoy doing or listening, whatever it is. And having a conversation, because we do not only have performances, we also have conversations in our open mics that are led through by poems, maybe sometimes, or sometimes what's happening around us. um, and yeah, I think I answered the question, but if there is anything else which I missed in the question, please let me know again. Yeah.
Not really. You have answered my question. And I also saw that obviously, like other people, you have also kept on like sending out, stories through your Instagram accounts where you are sort of talking about the awareness of COVID-19 pandemic that everybody has been doing. So that's one thing added that you forgot that you have been
Oh
doing.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
So, so that's
Yeah.
one thing. And yeah, so like you were talking about the open mic. So my question about the open mic is that where did the idea generate from? Of course, that the loss of being able to go out and performing was one, but the germination of the idea, where did that come from, and how are you like planning to take it ahead, and what are you, even when the this gets over, the lockdown gets over, and people are able to go out, what are you planning to do with that?
Yeah. So I have always wanted. I love being a host. I love hosting stuff. So so I have always wanted to host open mics, and I have hosted a lot of open mics, lot of events as such. And so it just came naturally to me. It was very natural for me to do this. uh, I am somebody who always takes initiative. If I see a problem that's like something is lacking here, and I have the solution, I know how to do this, then I would jump in right ahead and try to volunteer myself for the solution. So that's, I think, and I think the seed of the open mic was way back from my first open mic. It was always there. When I saw the host doing all the things, I'm like, yeah, this is really cool, I want to do this as well. So that's where I think the seed germinated right there. But the blooming of it happened during this pandemic, when I thought that there's nothing like this, so I would want to make my own open. I mean, there are open mics. I'm not saying there are no open mics. It's just that I did not see any, I don't know. I didn't see any safe spaces. I mean, I'm not calling other open mic, oh, they're not safe spaces. It's just, it's not intimate enough for me. That was not there. That, that level of, connection was not there enough. Maybe if I go more to those open mics, maybe that would happen. I don't know. But I wanted to create something for myself. And that was totally a personal project. This was totally a personal project. And the thing is, when I have seen this, that when you do something for yourself, you put your all your like soul, like heart, mind, everything into it. And it shows to other people. Then other people join you in the process. And that's what happened in this open mic. Other people came in, and they started sharing their poems and stories and songs even. And yeah, I'm very grateful to that. Next part of the question is what I'm planning to do beyond, which has already started, by the way. Which is that I have been planning this for a long time, but but I've not gotten around it, because I've always had this feeling of uh, uh, am I worth it, this thing. But I've worked on that so much, done a lot of self work, that I am now like in that level that I know that I'm worth it. So I created this thing called like a workshop for writers, so that they can become like level up and become better writers. Um, it's starting this 1st of November. It's not so much known on social media right now because I have not put it out from a personal account as of yet, only from this account, this I Pour My Thoughts account. But after this break is over, which is gonna be over by this 31st of October, which was my date. So 1st of November, I'm gonna announce it like to the world, like, oh, look, this workshop is live. And so this batch is already like, like 7 people are already selected for, but next batch they can come off. So that's new. That's something I have been planning. Number one. Number two is I've been also thinking about doing a slam, which is poetry competitions, right? But I'm not only thinking about poetry, I'm also thinking about stories. But that's still that's still, how do I put it, a plan in progress, I would say, because I want to do it from, not from my I Pour My Thoughts brand, but I want to do it from the Pajama Poets brand, which is another brand with whom I'm connected with. So we are like a couple of poets and storytellers who join together, we'll do perform shows and all of that. You might know Mariam Saigal from there, amazing poet. So that's there. And yeah, that's about it. Yeah.
Before moving on, let me congratulate you and wishing you all the best for your next venture.
Thank you so much. Oh, wait. There's one more part of the question. I forgot. What would you do after this is over, right? So then I'll go and do physical open mics. It's as simple as that. But I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But my guess is, and this is like live on camera now. Like I'm guessing that the pandemic would not be over one more year. So by 2022, I think by 2022. So 2000. This is 21. 2022, I think it's gonna be that, like, it's okay now to do all that stuff. But anyway, people are gonna do so. Yeah.
Yeah, wishing you all the very best, Anshuman.
Thank you so much.
Okay. My next question to you, the 6 months of lockdown period, it pushed many of us, for a restless generation like us, where we are not used to sitting at home and all that, we have gone through a phase of anxiety, depression, and many other situations that concerns the mental being. So in that scenario, what do you think is the power of words, or how can poetry influence people, or how can they have a time with words, according to you, being a poet?
Yes. So power of words. I believe words carry a lot of power. I believe the language we use. For example, I'll just give you 3 examples. Have you heard of the phrase break a leg? Break a leg? Yeah, you've heard. Have you heard of the phrase he killed it, she killed it on the stage? You've heard of it? Yeah. Yeah. And what about um, there was one more phrase that was coming to my mind, but not right now. Okay, fine. I like to do things in groups of three. So that's why three always. But the point of these examples were that there's a lot of violence in our language. Break a leg, killed it. Why not lived it? Yeah. Yeah. So that's, so it's there in our culture, it's there in our language, especially English. Yeah. I mean, English being the colonizer's language, I'm not surprised. But the point of this is that the language we use can often, you know, uh, how do I put it, rewire the cognitive way in which we think. So there's this thing called cognitive behavior therapy, where the therapist uses this to reframe stuff that we have thought for a long time in a negative way, or in a way that is not effective for us, and challenges us to see it in a new perspective, right? So in that way, I think language also helps us to release things that we hold within our bodies, which is, for example, maybe emotion, maybe um, mostly emotion only. What else you can hold within your bodies actually? uh, yeah, mostly emotion. Sometimes emotions translating into physical urges and pains, because they can become pain. That has happened with me personally. So writing becomes a cathartic uh, means of transport for these things to channel out of the body. So if I look at it like that, it becomes a means of transport for me to channel everything out, release it to the world. Sometimes seeing my own thoughts frozen on paper helps me to see, oh, okay, I'm thinking like this. Maybe this is something I need to work on. Number one. Number two, how it can also help is, um, oh, this is how I've been feeling, and I feel lighter now that I have put it out there. Yeah. And you don't even have to share it with the whole world. It can just be with yourself. I believe as a generation, we have stopped talking to ourselves. And it has happened because of the lot of stimulants available all around us. Our screens, yeah, screens, see, we don't read books anymore. We were constantly streaming, watching something, playing music. It's too much of stimulation for our brain to even think, have a conversation with ourselves. And I think that's where writing, poetry, especially poetry, comes in. Because when you write poetry, you are bound to have that conversation with yourself. You're bound to think for that point at least, to write and understand what you want to think and write about. And I think that is a very powerful process in order to use language to release emotions and understand oneself. Yeah.
That's very true. I agree with every word you said right now. So there's one more question that I want to ask you. So like we always see that you write poetry every day, right? Like you the character that you have in yourself sort of gets embedded in the poetry that you write. Your characteristics are embedded in the poetry that you write. So what do you think? You must have noticed that like being in a profession so creative, being a poet, some things in this profession must have gotten into you, some things that poetry has changed in you, has brought in you. So please tell us about that.
That's a very interesting question. Yeah. Uh, I think one of the biggest changes that happened is that when I write things, I express myself, right? And in a way, I tend to understand myself better. And sometimes I also discover things which I thought maybe is like, I'm done with that. For example, I'll just give you an example. So I had this connection with this amazing girl that I met. Okay, and we both had a connection. But the thing is, it didn't work out because of certain stuff. Anyway, the point is that I was done with all of that way back. It was way back. But then there is still some kind of closure which I didn't receive. Right. So what I have been doing is writing a lot of poetry for that, putting all of that out there, and that has helped me to understand myself even more. And uh, and you're so right, Mansi, that there is a character that is in my poems, that you can read and that, okay, this, I think this is written by Angshuman, even if you don't know that who has written it, right? um so what I would like to say at the end is, every writer, or let's just say every artist actually, for that matter, struggles a lot to uh, find their own voice in this world filled with noise. Wow, that rhymed. But when you
That is
write
going in your
more,
next poetry.
no, when you write more, when you do more of your art, when you practice more of it, you start to see a voice emerging out of it. And I have been fortunate enough to see it myself and understand it, talk to that voice, because it's my voice. I'm talking to myself. And it is one of the most beautiful connections that I cherish in the whole freaking world. It's so beautiful, and I don't want to share it with anybody. Obviously, I don't need to share it with anybody, but it is also somewhere out there in the world for people to see, right? Because I put it all out there, but not all my poems are out there actually. Some are actually, you know, I've kept it with myself. I write actually two poems every day, one in the morning, one at night. So I choose which one I put it out there. So yeah.
I'm a little intimidated by you right now. Writing two poems every day is not a easy task. So I think we are at the end of our interview now. So Ria, will you take it ahead from here?
Sure. So, Anshuman, this was really a very lively session. Thank you so much for answering all the questions that we put forth to you. It was very interesting, and I truly enjoyed it. And I'm sure that Mansi and Ria might have enjoyed it as well. So, okay. Um, okay, it would be very nice, like if you would like recite one of your lines out of a collection of poetry. Would absolutely love it if you did
Sure,
that.
sure, sure.
Thank you.
We don't have enough time actually in this, so I hope I read which should I read? Let's read
There's a
something
technical
new.
glitch, I guess.
Uh, your voice is breaking, Anshuman.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, okay. Um, let's yeah, so I would like to read this poem because it's one of my favorite poems which I wrote recently. Uh, so this poem is called Moram. My favorite word in the whole world, oh, sorry, my favorite word in the whole world is Moram. And when my best friend asks me what it means, I did not know how to translate the softest word from my mother tongue into my colonizer's language. I tell her there is no translation which can carry the velvet sound dandelion like word to her ears. I tell her it means something like love, but so much more. I realize how my inability to express myself in English is directly proportional to how rich my own language is. Moram looks like the eyes of a puppy when you get back home. Moram smells like a newborn baby, like pages of an old book with a flower bookmark, like when I hugged you for the first time. Moram tastes like dairy milk silk they show in their ads. Moram sounds like whispers in a library, like my pen writing this line on my notebook, like your heart when you hugged me the last time. Moram feels like googly woogly mush. Moram reads like this poem. That's it.
Oh, seriously, it was truly wonderful to hear that. Thank you so much once again, like for reciting
It's
this poem.
beautiful.
Yeah, it was
Thank you.
really, really wonderful. And
I'm glad you liked it.
yeah, truly. Actually, I'm a fan of writing poetry myself, so I truly like felt the emotion you presented behind those lines. So please make sure to follow Anshuman's Instagram page. I poem my thoughts. He really writes amazing poems. So please go and check those poems out. And over to you, Mansi.
Thank you so much, Anshuman, for being here.
Thank
Guys,
you
this
for
was
having me here.
thank you so much. And so I got introduced with Anshuman during my workshop with MyCaptain. And since that day, I think we've been connected through his page, and I've always been admiring his poems. He writes beautiful poetry, and he's an amazing mentor. I just remember the patience he had with us and the way he taught, he explained us every little thing. So I can never forget that workshop in my life, and that is because you're an amazing mentor. So,
That
and
means a lot.
all the
Thank you
things
so
that
much.
we don't even know about you, for example, that you mentioned that human is in your name, and that is not mentioned in your bio, and so all these little things that now maybe we know a little more about you through this interview. And I hope that our viewers also enjoyed this interview, and they got to know and got all the insights that we got from your interview. So thank you so much, and until next time, stay safe, stay connected.
So, okay, the